Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel and welcome back to my Sims 4 speedrunning video, or welcome to the channel if you are new here. So in today's video I'm going to be building in the world of Brindleton Bay, which is the world that we got from the expansion pack The Sims 4 Cats and Dogs, and I'm going to be building a gardener's dream home using the new kits that came out yesterday. So in case you missed it, which in all fairness is quite easy because I feel like at this point we're literally getting kits just thrown at us, but yesterday was new kit day, so we've got 2 new kits for The Sims 4, one of which was the Sims 4 Greenhouse Haven kit. It's more so a kit that focuses on basically greenhouses, so we've got some nice new windows in the kit, we also got a few new doors and wallpapers, and then the majority of the kit is just clutter. So it's basically greenhouse clutter. So little tiny bags of soil and little tiny plant pots like stacked up upon each other, and just, you know, just loads of different bits and bobs to shove into your Sims greenhouses. But then we also got another kit which is called the Basement Treasures Kit, which this one really pleasantly surprised me, but it's basically a new kit that is more like grungier, kind of more run down, older kind of looking furniture that your Sims might typically just shove into their basement. I knew I was gonna like the kit when I was coming into this build because it is more, you know, like I just said, grungier, kind of older looking furniture, which I love having more realistic details in the game, just because I feel like sometimes when you get furniture pieces, they just look so show home kind of thing, you know, like sometimes when you look at a sofa and you think that looks great, but I don't feel like I could sit on it because I just feel like I'm gonna mess the pillows up or something. I love more like run down, or not even run down, just more realistic kind of furniture that has like pillows that might be a little bit skew with, or maybe like a few tears in it here and there. But the actual clutter that we got from this Basement Treasures kit, I am so pleasantly surprised, and I think one of my new favourite items in the game actually comes in this Basement Treasure kit, and it is like a little landline telephone. It is the most adorable thing I think I've ever seen. It looks like a Sim has just picked up the phone, had a phone call, and then just left like this little, the phone itself plopped up onto, I think it's meant to be a lunchbox. Honestly, it is so adorable, and I know I'm going to get so much use out of it. And so yeah, I'm really pleasantly surprised with the Basement Treasure kit. There's also some like really nice like storage trunks, and just there's another new retro TV, which I've been using the retro TV, which you can find in the debug menu, which your Sims literally pick out of a bin for years, ever since we got Eco Lifestyle. I'm so happy we've now got one in the actual game itself, and you don't have to scroll through the menu to find it. And so yeah, I thought I'd sit down and do a build and basically showcase all the new items that we've got from both the kits. And yeah, this is how it turned out, so I hope you like it. But getting on and actually talking a little bit more about the build. So this house ends up having 1 bedroom and 1 bathroom, which honestly I would love if someone could tell me the last time I built a house for a single Sim, or just like a house that's only got 1 bedroom. I don't typically build 1 bedroom houses in the game because I don't know, I personally like playing with families, and I also really personally like decorating family houses to make them feel like proper lived in, proper cluttered up, just really nice, big, homey, happy family homes. And I just never seem to build a single Sim house. But yeah, this house, it only ends up having the 1 bedroom and the 1 bathroom, so a single Sim would potentially live here, or maybe a couple, but I was personally imagining a storyline for a single Sim. There is definitely room, if you want to extend and actually have a bedroom on the upstairs level, but for just gameplay purposes, I thought it would be nice and easy just to have like a 1-story little bungalow, and you've got everything at your Sims fingertips. You don't have to like move around, scroll around too much to try and find something. It's all just kind of like compact into this small little kind of cottage, and yeah, I'm just so happy with the way this house turned out. Now, initially, coming into this build, I did have a picture that I found on Pinterest that kind of inspired the whole entire landscaping. I'll find the picture and I'll pop it up on the screen now. So if you were to look at the picture, I more so take kind of like inspiration from the front of the picture, or kind of like the left hand side, where it seems to be all these different like planters, and we've got like a little fence, and then there's also like a big row of like bushes with flowers, and then like staircase leading up to the cottage. That was more so my focus point from the picture. And then the actual house itself, I just wanted to build something small and cutesy and sweet, and so I didn't really look at anything when I was building that. It was just what I thought looked good. I probably could have tried to replicate the house that's in the original picture that I was looking at, but the thing is, the house that's in the picture, I'll re-pop it up on the screen to remind you, but the house in the picture looks a little bit more Tudory, which I absolutely love. The Tudor style is one of my favourite styles to build in, but where I'm building the world of Brindleton Bay, I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like I have to stick to this certain kind of style of house in Brindleton Bay, and so I didn't want to have like a little Tudor cottage right next to all of these other houses that are, I say right next to, this house actually is kind of, it's out in the sticks, it's out in the sun, but in the neighbourhood there ends up being some quite different shaped houses and quite different style, and so I thought I'm just going to build something cutesy and small, and yeah, that is basically how the house shape itself came together. But I also didn't want to build something completely different to the rest of the houses in the world of Brindleton Bay, because I did decide that I was going to build this for my save file, and so I have got a sim in mind that's going to be living here in my save, and I love the storyline. Don't get me wrong, it's nothing out the ordinary, it's nothing extravagant, but it's just such a sweet little cutesy storyline, and it's for a single sim. Like I said, I don't ever build single sim houses, so it's kind of refreshing to have a storyline just for a one sim. And yeah, I'll get on and talk about the storyline for the sim that's going to be living here in just a moment. I just kind of want to talk about what I'm doing right now and also what is on the screen. So you can see that I pretty much built the main structure of the house. It did all the windows and the doors and the roof and all that kind of, all the stuff that goes into the actual main structure of the house quite quickly, and then quite swiftly I actually moved on and started doing a little bit of the terrain painting. Now, like I said, the kind of like landscape around this build was inspired by a picture that I found on Pinterest, and I wanted to kind of get the footprint down for the terrain manipulation before I started placing in all the different landscaping items and all the different, you know, clutter pieces and activities, because one thing with terrain manipulation is it will make bushes just float in the air. It will make items just go all skew with and just go all bizarre different angles and heights. And so I wanted to place down the terrain and get the terrain to a place that I was happy with. And then once I was happy with it, I then went around and started landscaping, which, can I just say, I'm so happy and just so like just pleased with the way the landscaping came together with this build, because I use a lot of Cottage Living, like live edit plants and bushes and just flowers as well. Some of the flowers that we've got from the Cottage Living live edit menu are just so pretty. They're the ones that are, you know, you see them big like pink bushes, the rose bushes, they're from Cottage Living. Also like the darker kind of like reddy ones, the sunflowers, all from Cottage Living, and they're just some of my favourite things to landscape with, and I'm just so happy the way I landscaped this build. One thing as well that I did in kind of like dribs and drabs, I don't show you all of it because it was quite time consuming, but you see how I kind of built the house and then there's kind of like a big wall that kind of goes around the whole entire lot. Well, off camera and slightly on camera, I do actually go around and place down ivy to make it look like ivy is growing up the walls, and on some sides I found some cracks that we got from the Vampires game pack, and I put the cracks into the wall to make it look like the wall is cracking in some places, just to try and make it feel a little bit older. And that was kind of like the whole idea that I had for this build. I didn't want it to be like an up-to-date really modern house. I wanted it to be a little bit more of a secluded bungalow that's not really got too much around it. There's not too much technology going on, but the actual house itself and kind of like the environment around it is quite old. And so I tried and show that in the landscaping and just place down like cracks and just stuff to make it feel like it's been here for a while and it's kind of like decaying over time. There also ends up being a little pond in this garden as well. Again, I was kind of looking at the landscaping and just kind of like what was around the house in the picture that I found on Pinterest, and there was a pond in that picture. But then when I was thinking about the sim that was going to be living here and kind of like what kind of things that they like to do in their hobbies and their skills, I was thinking, well, having a pond is actually quite fitting, because I feel like if you're someone that really likes gardening, you might also just happen to like fishing, because it's kind of like an outdoor activity. It kind of goes along in my head. And so there ends up being a little pond, this little tiny dock, which I've just pulled out. Now the dock itself, your Sims can't go on. It is just purely decoration. But I just think it just makes it look so sweet. Also end up pulling out a really old, I think it's called like a paddle boat, or just, it's an old boat, but it's adorable because the boat that I picked out and the boat that I chose, it looks like at one point they might have had a leak, and so they tried to like tape it up with like sellotape or something. It looks so sweet. And there ends up being a little flower arranging table in this area. I also placed down some ducks into the pond, so you won't see them when I'm building it, but in a moment I'm going to put out these kind of, they're almost like tiles, and they've got different kind of like insects and animals on them. I placed down a ton of different dragonflies all around this lot. You only see me do them in the pond area. The rest of it I did off camera, but if you get your sim to live here, you might notice in like gameplay and in live mode that there's little dragonflies just flying around, and you can find these dragonfly kind of like placement items where you can find all the different like ducks and swans and fish and crocodiles in the game. So yeah, there ends up being some ducks in the pond as well. But then moving on and actually talking about what I did on the other side of the lot, which I will shortly move back over to, but you want to notice that I placed down some of the planters, and then I did something to try and make it look like the planters have some kind of support structure. So again, I saw this in the picture that I was looking at on Pinterest, but in the picture there seems to be almost like them things where you kind of like attach plants to if they're growing poorly. So you know, sometimes if you're trying to grow something and it needs to grow straight up, but then sometimes plants can snap and they can like bend in certain ways, and they can just grow in different ways than you actually want it to. Or sometimes you can have like sticks or little support structures to kind of clip the plant to, so then it grows up straight. I found these little arches in the base game live edit menu, and I basically just plopped them into the planters, moved them down into the ground a little bit, and it kind of looks like it's meant to be one of them. And if you're wondering, completely usable. As always, I have playtested this whole entire build. I didn't run into a single problem. Your Sims can walk under them, your Sims can do their gardening with absolutely no problems whatsoever. But yeah, I was really happy with the way it turned out. It looks so sweet, and it looks so realistic as well. I don't know why I've never thought to do that before, but yeah, it was something that I saw in the picture, and I remember that we have this archway in the live edit menu from the base game, and I thought it would be the perfect fit to use. I also surrounded the planters with, I think they're meant to be called sleepers. The ones that I've used, they're from Journey to Batuu. I don't think I've ever used the ones that I've surrounded by the planter beds, but I've also used some ones that are also from the Journey to Batuu game pack, which are the ones that have these little tiny stones. I used them at the front of the build to kind of fence in that big bulk of the landscape, and where we've got all of them bushes and all the flowers and stuff. I use them there, but I also use them over here, just kind of like by the back door. They're so sweet, and honestly, I forget about them. I've used them a handful of times in different builds, but I try and, it sounds bad, but I do kind of sway away a little bit from the Journey to Batuu game pack, because I know it's not everyone's favourite game pack. I do use it here and there, but more so I try and focus not to try and solely use something from that pack, just because I know it's not everyone's favourite. But I must admit, there are some really nice items from the Star Wars game pack, and them little stone flower bed things are definitely some of my favourite items. But over here you can see that I've actually now started to incorporate the windows that we got from this new kit. So they are from the greenhouse kit. I can't remember the name. I'm just going to call it the greenhouse kit, and the basement one I'm just going to call the basement kit, because you get my drift. You know what I'm talking about. But there is now so many different kits and just DLCs in general for the game. It's actually kind of hard to keep up. But initially, when I actually came in and I started building this house, I didn't have access to the kit yet because it hadn't been released. Because the way that the release times work, they kind of go over like Californian time, I believe, like San Francisco time, and I live in the UK, so I started building this yesterday daytime, and then I paused, waited for the kit to come out, and then once I actually had my hands on the kit, that's when I came in and I then started really focusing on the greenhouse. Initially, I placed down the mosquito windows. I know that's not how you say the name, but I always struggle whenever I go to pronounce the name officially of the mosquito pack, so I just say mosquito. It's just a ton easier. But I initially used the mosquito windows because they are quite greenhousey, and initially I thought I would just swap them out when we got the new ones and it'll be good. But I actually liked having the combination of the new ones that we got from the kit, but then also the ones that we have from the mosquito pack. The new ones pleasantly surprised me because it's also kind of like a porched kind of version of it. So you can see the version that I've used on the door, it's the same one to the windows, so it's kind of like a bit of a screen rather than glass. I wasn't expecting that. I do really like the fact that we've got these windows that have like an open one as well. So you can see that I've tried to use a combo of like the open window and then the closed window, just to try and make it feel a little bit more realistic, because in real life I imagine that greenhouses get really hot because they just let in so much light, and they probably get really sweaty in there. So I was thinking they'd probably have a lot of different windows open in the greenhouse. But you can see that I've already come in and started placing down some of the new clutter pieces that we've got from the new kit. For the most part, the clutter in the kit mainly is just like plant pots, little tidy like seedlings, and then like bags of soil, and then just different variations of plant pots and different variations of seedlings. So like I I think that's how you say it anyway. You know, like little tiny pot. You can see they've placed one down over here on this table. Like basically little pots. It looks like something is yet to grow, but it hasn't grown fully and it hasn't flourished yet, so it hasn't actually been moved into a planter. I think they're called seedlings. I'm sorry if that's incorrect terminology, but I'm not too advanced in gardening in real life. I actually ain't got a clue about gardening. I would be absolutely terrible, but in The Sims I often get my Sims to garden, and that's what I call it in my head. But either way, in the actual greenhouse kit, the majority of the clutter, yeah, it's basically just different variations of plant pots. So you might have like a single plant pot, and then there might be like 3 more plant pots in a stack, and then there might be 3 more bigger ones in a stack. It's kind of like different variations of these kind of clutter pieces. We did get 2 new tables, which I've used both the tables in this little greenhouse. One of them that I've used on the other side, I'm going to be using in so many different builds, but not even just greenhouse builds, just because it's just a nice table and it comes in some really nice plain swatches, and I feel like you don't have to use it in the greenhouse as well. But over here I'm doing something which I was actually kind of proud of this idea. Basically I wanted it to look like there was a little fertilizer that had kind of like fallen over, and then all of the fertilizer inside of the can has kind of like spilled out onto the side. And so what I did is I went into the live edit menu, I found like a little pile of dirt, I sized it down really small and then plopped it onto the table. I then found a fertiliser that your Sims can actually use in gameplay, like they can use that to help grow the crops and stuff. But I found one, and then I rotated it to make it look like it's just been like tipped over, and then the soil is kind of like coming out of it, or what I imagine to be fertiliser. I thought that was a really nice little idea, just to try and like cluster it up and try and make it feel like this greenhouse is an actual used space. Also, actually, I'm looking at it and I completely forgot to mention it. We got a new floor. It's the one that I've used in the greenhouse. I'm going to be using this so much in future builds. So if you look at it, you can see that it's got these tiny little bits of grass and kind of like weeds coming through into the flooring. I love that small little detail. It just makes me so happy, and I'm going to use this in so many different future back gardens, because sometimes when I actually do back garden spaces and I want there to be a bit of grass and also a little bit of patio, I never know what patio to use, and I always tend to use just like the same base game ones. But I feel like now going forward I've actually got one that makes more sense, because not everyone in real life, your patio isn't like sparkling clean. I mean, I'm sure everyone probably needs like a pressure washer on their patio, because over time and over just like weather, it just gets like mucky and just grim, and just, I love the new flooring. I am a big fan of the new flooring. We have also got a new wallpaper, but the thing is, you can't really see it because the greenhouse has literally windows going all the way around it. But there is a new paneling that we got from this pack. It comes in, I think, like green, I think like a browny, orangey, beigey kind of colour. It comes in white, which I'll probably use the white one more so. And then, yeah, I think that is it in terms of the colours of the wallpaper. We did also get a new glass roof, which, to be completely honest with you, I didn't actually know about until once I finished this build. And then I went to go and see what it looked like. But the new glass roof that we've got, I just preferred the one that I already placed down from base game, and so I did just use the base game one. But yeah, there is a new glass roof also in this new pack. But you can see that I pretty much just finished off the exterior. I did go in and add in some tiny little kind of like signs. It looks like it has like a little tomato on it or something, and maybe it's like the gardener that lives here. Maybe they kept like the seed packet of the different fruits and vegetables that they planted, and they just kind of wanted to display the fruit packet on a sign or something. I don't know. I just liked the idea of it. I thought it was really cute to have like a little signpost that had like a little tomato just plopping out the planters. Like I said, it's all completely usable with the sleepers going around the planters, the little archway. Your Sims, I've playtested this whole entire build and everything is completely functional. So yeah, it's just like a nice little added bonus onto the exterior of the build. But now, as you can see, I've now moved on into the inside. Now you can actually see how small the inside of this house ends up being. You literally walk in through the front door, you're already in the dining room. I never do dining rooms so close to the front door. I normally always have like a little separate space for your Sims to actually sit down and eat their tea, but it was just the way the floor plan worked out. And I did actually change up the floor plan a tiny little bit when I actually came in and I started doing the wallpaper and flooring, because initially when I was doing the floor plan, it was just going to be an open plan, like, I was about to say open plan fridge, open plan kitchen, open plan lounge space, and then open plan dining room space. But then when I started doing the wallpaper and the flooring, I felt like it was too big for how small the house it actually was. And so I did decide to close it in a little bit with using some spandrels and also some columns. Quickly, before I move on and talk about anything else, I need to discuss the little phone on the side table. Honestly, I am just so happy that we've now got like a landline phone in the game. It's completely just decoration. It unfortunately doesn't work. I really hope that one day we actually get the ability for Sims to have landline phones again, because we had them in previous Sims games, and I know not many people have landlines nowadays, but I mean, I still have a landline. A lot of people I know still have landline phones, and it's just, I don't know, I feel like it's a little bit weird that we still don't have them in the game at this point in time. I mean, like I said, it is something that not many people do have like now, but I feel like a lot of older people still have landlines, and not a lot of older people have mobiles. But I'm just so happy we've now just got the decoration for a landline phone. It's got this little tiny cord, and it kind of like goes onto the table, whatever service that you're cluttering up, and then the actual phone itself looks like it's just been plonked onto, I think it's meant to be a lunchbox, which I have done some like testing off camera. You can actually merge in other objects, which I'm definitely going to be doing in the future. But basically, the phone itself, it looks like someone's just put it onto a lunchbox, and the lunchbox is quite kid-like because it is from the basement kit, that little landline phone. And so I'm assuming that, okay, it's meant to be in the basement, someone's left their lunchbox in the basement, but I know that in future builds I'm going to want to use that but not have a lunchbox. So I have tested it, and you can actually merge in other things like underneath the phone. Like you can place down like books or little tiny like chests, or you know, them little tiny storage boxes. We got some from the Dream Home Decorator game pack. You can actually merge some of them in underneath the phone. I have done it, like I've tested it after I did this build, but I didn't do it in this build. But yeah, it's just like a little heads up, which I think I'm going to be actually doing more so in the future. But I'm just so happy we've got like a little tiny phone. It's so perfect, and especially for this build as well, because when I was building this, I was really imagining a sim that lived here to be a little single sim, maybe a little bit of an older lady, and she never wanted to have kids. Like children was just not on the cards for her. She just loved her cats, and she just loved gardening, and so she lives in this little secluded bungalow in the world of Brindleton Bay, and she just spends her days just out in her garden or out by the little pond, sitting on a bench, maybe doing a little bit of crocheting or something. Just like a really sweet little old lady. She's a bit of a cat woman as well. Like she's going to have a lot of cats. So you'll see in this build, I placed down a few different like cat food bowls. There's also like a little box in the bathroom. I tried to make it look like there was like a box of litter with a spoon in it next to the litter box to try and make it feel a little bit more realistic. But yeah, that was the idea that I had for the sim that could potentially live in this house. It's nothing like extravagant, like I said. It's not like the most in-depth storyline. It's just like a really sweet storyline for like a little elder sim. They don't even have to be an elder. I was just personally imagining an elder sim who maybe was a bit of an unflirty sim, just didn't want to have any sim maybe they're a little bit of a loner as well actually, and maybe they just don't like actual people. Maybe they just like cats, and maybe that's why they've got so many of them or something. But yeah, I just thought it was like a nice little storyline for a sim to live in this little gardener's dream cottage. Maybe that's how they was able to afford such a big plot of land to be able to grow all their different fruits and vegetables on, because they didn't have kids, they never got married, they never had to spend any money on a wedding, they didn't have to buy like a crib or anything like that related to kids. And so maybe all of their life savings have just gone into their house and their garden, and maybe they used to be a gardener. Who knows? Or maybe they could still be a gardener. I haven't actually played with elders in a little while, but maybe they're still a gardener, and maybe they never retired, and maybe they just do the gardener stay-at-home job. You know, when you can get your sim to be a gardener and they stay at home, maybe they just do that full-time, and that's just kind of like how they make their living or something. But either way, getting back to talking about what I'm actually doing right now. So you can see that I've moved on now into this little lounge space. So I used the new armchair that we got from the Basement Treasures kit. Now, the actual armchair itself, it comes in a few different swatches, both of colourways and then also of kind of like deterioration, if that's the right word. So there might be like a brown swatch and it might have a few scratches, but then there's like another brown swatch of the same armchair, like the same kind of brown tone, but then it's got tons more scratches, like a little bit more worn. And I like the fact that we've got the option for it. Like we can choose how detailed and how old you want the furniture to look. There's also, and I'm so excited about it, we've also got record clutter now in the game. So you can see next to the plant that I've placed down, there's kind of like a little crate. It looks like it's meant to be like records or like vinyls. I've sized up so many different, them little tiny like CDs that we got from base game. I've sized them up so many different times before in the past to try and make it look like they're meant to be vinyls or records or something, because previously we've never had something like that in the game, but now we've got these little tiny vinyls in kind of like a little crate, and I just plopped it now next to the armchair. But over here I wanted to use the new TV and then also this new, I think it's meant to be a side table or it's potentially a coffee table. But the thing is, the object itself looked like it's got like an older TV already within it. Now, where I wanted to use this as like the mount for where the TV would sit, I didn't want to use the new TV and then have like an older TV plopped underneath it. So basically what I did, and you can see what I'm doing right now, is I basically went through the paintings category in the game and I found the back of a painting that was just completely wood, kind of matched the wood to the actual table itself, and basically tried to block in the old TV just to make it look like it was just a bit of like wood. There was no TV there. I did initially have the idea, and I completely forgot when I was doing it because I was so focused on placing down these postcards. I might still add it in, so you might see it in screenshots, but I did initially have the idea to size down a cabinet and then put a cabinet into it as well, so then that way it looks like it's meant to be like a storage unit rather than just like a block of wood. I might actually now do that. Now I'm saying it out loud, I feel like I probably should go back and do that. I was just so focused on cluttering up the rest of the space on this little side table, so I placed down like loads of different postcards, like a little tiny note that I completely forgot about my original idea. So yeah, you might see that in the screenshots. I might decide to add it in because I feel like that'll be like a nice little touch. I've done something like that before. I actually did that fairly recently. I built a lake house in the world of Granite Falls, and I wanted it to look like there was a built-in wardrobe, and basically one of the wardrobe pieces I flipped, and then I found a kitchen cabinet, and just using the handles from the cabinet I pulled it out of the wall, but just enough so the handles would come out but not the actual cabinet piece, and then that way you've got like little handles to place onto a furniture piece to make it look like it's meant to be storage on the inside. But yeah, I just thought I'd mention that. But in the lounge room, I decided to use also the new sofa, or newish sofa, that we got from the Growing Together expansion pack. I think that's the only time that I've used that sofa in a different swatch to like one of the default swatches, because the sofa is really pretty, but I must admit every time I go to use the sofa I always use it in the same swatch, and so I used it in kind of like a brown leather swatch. It looks a little bit more older, it kind of fitted the aesthetic of this house a little bit better. But then also in the lounge room there ends up being a little tiny fireplace. I put it on a diagonal and I wanted there to be a fireplace because there is a chimney on the exterior and it's kind of parallel to when you go up to the roof, and so it kind of makes sense for realism purposes. But now, as you can see, I've now moved on into the next room, which is the only bedroom. So this is the first and only bedroom, which sounds so weird to say because, like I said, I never build like single sim houses. Please let me know if you want to see me do like more single sim houses, because I'll definitely do some more. But I just feel like a lot of people like and appreciate family homes, like big houses that have like 2, 3, 4, 5 bedrooms, and so that's more so what I sway towards. It's also the thing that I enjoy decorating the most. But yeah, definitely let me know about that one. But either way, in the bedroom I used this bed, which is from the Cats and Dogs expansion pack. I always seem to use this bed whenever I have like elder bedrooms. It's just like such an eldery bed, which makes, that's not English, but hopefully you know what I mean. Like, it just looks like a little old lady would sleep in this bed, and it is just, I love it. And to be honest, I don't even just use it exclusively for elders. I also do use this sometimes in like parents' bedrooms or something. But it's just such a good bed because it comes in a really nice swatch, and it comes in some really nice plain bed swatches as well. There is some more like floral ones and quite colourful ones, but I appreciate just a plain blue, a plain white, a plain brown kind of like bed swatch, because I feel like in The Sims we've got so many different extravagant beds, and then we've got so many different extravagant bed sheets to go along with it. Sometimes it can be a little bit overpowering, but either way, in that room there ends up being a little tiny like chest of drawers with a mirror on. Also ends up being like an armchair. I was really stuck because I wanted to add in, you know, the cat tree and what cats can climb on. Like I said, I imagine this woman, she's a cat lady, like she's got a ton of cats. I'm thinking like 4 or 5 cats, and they just roam around her garden consistently. But I really wanted to add in the cat tray, but I just couldn't make it fit in her bedroom, and there wasn't really anywhere else in the house that I feel like I could have placed it down and it would have made much sense. But ended up placing a bookcase as well in that room. But now, as you can see, I've moved on to the last room in this house, which ends up being the bathroom. So in here there ends up being a really nice, quite fancy looking bathtub, which is from the Cottage Living expansion pack. I then placed down a little toilet, which is from base game. There ends up being quite a large sink and counter area. I placed down some like little baskets on there, like the odd plant. I placed down like a cat grooming brush because I imagine this woman that lives here is consistently just looking after her cats and just brushing them to make sure they're just, you know, tended to, and then I'm gonna go around, finish it off, and that is pretty much it. So anyway guys, I'm gonna end this voiceover right here. As always, you can download this build via the gallery. My gallery ID is JessicapieYT, or you can just search for the hashtag JessicapieYT or just the hashtag Jessicapie. As always, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and as always, if you do like my content, then please do subscribe, and hopefully I will see you in my next Sims 4 speedbuilding video. Bye guys.